Hey people, I'm back with Talking MLS again, and we are about to start the preseason and then, of course, the season in MLS 2020. And to begin with, we're going to talk about a process that is taking, of course, a lot of energy, a lot of time, and a lot of inclusion. We're going to talk right now with Kyle Sheldon. He is the VP of Marketing for Chicago Fire. And we're going to talk, of course, about that process that they're taking there, they're doing there to change the crest. At least that's what I have in my mind, is only the crest of the team. So let's bring Kyle right now. Kyle, thank you for doing this.
Yeah, John, thank you for having me. It's good to be with you.
So the process that you guys are doing is only to change the crest of the team.
Yeah, I think that's right. It expanded just a little bit beyond the crest itself. That's obviously the primary focus, but it's probably worth saying that the name isn't changing, but it's about the visual identity. So the crest is at the heart of that, but as a part of the project, we'll look at typeface and other marks that may be kind of extensions of the primary mark.
Okay, and then let's start from the beginning. Why they need to change it when the team went through a change of identity only a year and a half ago?
Yeah, it's a fair question, and I've maybe said this to a few folks before, but I think if you've just been paying attention recently, it might seem like we've just been recently listening. But the fact is that when we launched the current crest, the Fire Crown badge, as we call it, it was pretty evident quickly that our longtime, our avid fans weren't responding to it positively. We have an owner in Joe Mansueto who is in tune with what the fans are saying and have been saying. And so it didn't take long after that launch for Joe to start thinking about, if this crest isn't working for fans, then we'll think about changing it. He said last January, a little over a year ago, that if it wasn't working for fans, then we would fix it. And, he wanted to live with it for a year, see it in the stadium, see it on uniforms, see if fans warmed up to it at all. But ultimately, it was clear that it wasn't connecting and resonating with our fan base and with Chicago the way that we wanted it to. And so we made the decision just this past month in January to make the change and make it a more open and transparent process.
And in that process of recognizing that the fans weren't connecting with the previous badge, what did you guys find out? Why? What was the element that made the fans not liking it?
Yeah, I think, well, look, we've had the benefit now over the last 6 weeks of doing a series of roundtables with our fans, our supporters, season ticket holders. We've had 1,500 people submit their feelings on the crest, the club, the city, speaking about Chicago. So it's a little bit cheating in that I now have really great insight. But what we really heard over the last year was that the Fire Crown badge, it didn't connect to the previous identity enough. We had 20 plus years of history, a history with championships and trophies, a ton of great players. Really an iconic look as you think about. We're obviously thinking about the crest, but also the uniforms, right? The red kits with the white band across the chest was really iconic. And so to depart from that, it was just something that our avid fans didn't recognize and didn't connect to. And so I think it was pretty clear. There was a story embedded in the crest that we're currently using that we felt, and the folks who worked on the project felt was the right story, but it wasn't immediately recognizable or understood. And so we're in a place now where the visual identity needs to better represent the city and the club. And so that's what we're working on.
Right. And the answer to this probably is going to be no from your part, but I'm going to, be a little bit of a devil's advocate right here. So that process, the previous batch, that was a waste of money?
It's an interesting way to ask it, John. I mean, I think, look, at the end of the day, the work that was done on that project, it's going to essentially, be behind us and it'll be a part of our past. It'll be a part of our history. And I think that's meaningful. It's worth noting that the team is going to wear that crest through the entirety of the 2021 season. So it still reps the team and the city for the duration that it's on the shirt. So yeah, I guess you could say maybe it was a waste of money, but I also think one of the things that comes out of that is that we're now in a process that is more inclusive and connected than really teams do with these types of projects. It's not common that with brand identity projects that you open it up the way that we have, and that's something that our fans were asking for. So it really wasn't our idea, but we feel we're the stewards of trying to make sure that it is open, transparent, communicative, and that we're raising and elevating all voices. So
right.
I guess if you're gonna find a silver lining, John, it's that previous project has led us to where we are today, and I think that's a very positive thing.
And I mean, you cannot change it, all right? What is done is done, right? The
Yeah,
only thing
and
that
you
you
know
can
what?
change is I mean, if you guys want to be more inclusive and you want to be listening to the fans, then you got to do it. But you cannot change what is already done. You need to
No, that's
move
right.
on,
We've sort of
correct?
said as we've started this project and thought about this project, right? We've been thinking about this type of project now for a number of months. We really just hit go on it, if you will, publicly in January, but it's been a months long process to say, how do we approach it in a way that achieves a better outcome at the end of it? And it's really a credit to our owner Joe that he wants it to be open and transparent. He wants fans' voices to be heard. I've joked with our design team that we put together is we might have somewhere between 5 and 10,000 creative directors on the project now, but really the challenge is trying to identify themes that we're hearing from kind of all inputs from fans and try to ultimately create a mark out of what we're hearing.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about future then. Uh, where is the process right now, right? So, and I know I was reading all the literature and the updates that you guys are sending to the fans. So there's a lot that has been done, but it's still a lot way to go to finish.
Yeah, I'd say we're sort of it's hard to put a timeline on it exactly, John, but we're into the process, and I would say that we have now over the course of these last 5-6 weeks, we feel like we've got a very good sense of how our fans, how our supporters, how our season ticket holders, even how some casual or maybe even non-fans, or we like to think of them as future fans, how they think about the Crest, the club, the city. We've called this project a Crest for all Chicago, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's an important. It was an important decision to frame it that way, which is that yes, of course, we want the Crest to represent the club, we want to represent the history of the club, and we have to pull that through as a part of this project. But we're hopeful that we can create something that stands for all of Chicago, and right now, we're to answer your question, we're sort of nearing the end of the primary fan input
Mm-hmm.
portion. The design team has been working kind of in concert, sort of on parallel paths on concepts that we're hearing about. But based on the fan feedback over the course of the last 5-6 weeks, they're starting to hone in on several key concepts. So we're getting to a place where we've got some ideas down on paper. We've got some looks coming together. There's a lot of work to be done to get that to sort of a final product, but we're feeling good that we've been able to hone in on some themes coming from the fan conversation. The next season for us will be our 25th season in the league. We're hopeful we're creating something that fans will love. Of course, we always say we're not going to be able to please everyone. We know that when we're getting enough different inputs and different ideas about what the Crest should be, that we know there'll be folks who say, I wish they would have done this instead of that. But ultimately, for their 25th season in the league, we're hopeful that we're putting something on the uniforms next year
Right.
that will be well liked.
So that's another silver lining because the jerseys from last year and this year are historic. The people who
Yeah,
has those jerseys,
they're
they're
maybe
gonna have jerseys
they're
with a
collector's
crest.
editions, right?
Exactly.
At some point, 15, 20 years down the road, they'll be throwbacks, I suppose. But yeah, that's right, and we'll be excited to have some new stuff to roll out next year.
Right. Now, with those, you already said it, you had submissions from fans and, of course, studies from experts. What are the themes that you guys identify like this should be around the crest or on the history of our crest?
Yeah, it's a big question because we've got a lot of input, and I think at this point we're probably close to 5,000 sort of different points of submission from fans. So we've got 1,500 submissions via our website where people are talking about the Crest, the city, the club. We've now done about 20 roundtables, which have 8 to 12 participants each time with a cross section of fans, season ticket holder, supporters. And we've recently, as of last week, put out a survey, sort of a more quantitative survey, right? Kind of multiple choice questions and ranking questions for folks who maybe don't want to dedicate a full 2 hours to a roundtable. So there's a lot of input. The themes that have started to really emerge, number one is absolutely that people want to see something pulled through from the original identity. So as you talk about the Florian Cross with the C at the center,
Yep.
fans want to see something that connects to the past and history of the club. So that's clearly something we have to solve. Specifically, we're seeing kind of across the board, almost sort of irrespective of who the fan or supporter is that the Chicago City flag, which you see over my shoulder here, is beloved in the city. The 6-pointed star, which is unique to Chicago, and ultimately the C at the center of the original Florian Cross, which is a bit of a Chicago. It's a Chicago letter, right? You think about the Cubs and the Bears, the Blackhawks, all have a version with a C, as did the Fire for 20 plus years. So those three have kind of risen to the top, but beyond that, there's a second layer of the historic Chicago water tower, the Florian Cross. We've heard a lot about Mrs. O'Leary's cow and the lantern and sort of the legend of the original Chicago fire. Those have been mentioned with some frequency. Generally, fans are sort of split on which of those might best represent the club. But those are concepts that we've explored. I should mention literal fire, right? Literal flames to represent the fire. We're named to the fire. So it's been there's been a lot, but those first three that I mentioned are the ones that have really started to kind of rise to the top.
Color wise is going to stay close to the same. I mean, the colors of the city, right?
Yeah, we've left that open. I mean, that's something that fans have been sharing with us, and I would say I probably should have mentioned it in the front end, which is that the color red has been prominent throughout every conversation. The previous Florian Cross was primarily navy with a gray circle, a red C, and some red accents on the Florian Cross. But it's clear that the red kits are iconic for the fire and something our fans care deeply about. That's on the table. I expect, frankly, that we'll have a return to a red kit. Based on Adidas timelines, that might not be for next year. That's something we could look at likely for 2023. But I think, you'll find that the color palette remains largely intact. Fans have also been clear that the gold color that's represented in the current Fire Crown badge is not something that connects for them and connects for Chicago. So I think you'll see that end up going away. We don't have, I don't know if we have any concepts that incorporate the color gold or yellow as a part of the new identity. So more red and less gold.
Just gold, yeah, a little bit of blue maybe, right? And
yeah,
white.
the sky blue in the flag is very well liked, and that's been a part of the club's color palette really through most of its history. If you go back and look at the kit history, there are kits that have the sky blue, the flag blue color pulled into them. So that's something the club has done a nice job of over the years is bringing that in. But it's just clear that that's something that resonates with Chicagoans.
Right. When you read the submissions, when you see what the people identify with, you guys studying that didn't see maybe the original badge wasn't that bad overall. Probably wasn't even necessary to go and replace it maybe.
Yeah, it's a fair question and comment, and I think there's a segment of our fan base who their sort of only wish would be that we would return to the original Florian Cross. I think what's been interesting through the discussion, sort of the deeper discussions, and even through some of the web submissions, is that there are a number of fans who clearly feel attachment to the original Crest, but understand the need to modernize it, and the need to sort of create something that can be more widely embraced. There are things that people point to, and I think with varying sort of degrees of reality, right, is you think about confusion with firefighters. That's something that some fans care about and others don't. Some fans see that as an opportunity if someone confuses them for a firefighter, as an opportunity to talk about their club, and that's viewed as a positive. And others we've heard from are, they don't want to be confused for a firefighter, and that sort of is a knock. We've had players who have been confused for firefighters on the road and gotten discounts at coffee shops, right? And so you're talking about trying to create something that can sort of exclusively be a source of pride and stand alone for the club. But I think what has come through in the conversation as you think about a badge that was inspired by the fire department is that it's a real source of pride for a lot of fans, and so we don't take that lightly. And I think there are certainly versions where we're looking at kind of a modernized Florian Cross that maybe creates just a little more distance between the original Florian Cross crest that the fire had with something that could be a little closer to, or I should say, a little further away from sort of immediately being viewed as a firefighter's symbol.
Okay. It's fair to say that the process may ended up going back to the basics, not the same badge by itself, but the basics.
I don't know that I can answer that yet, John. I don't know that we're far enough along yet. I think, I think it's the real crux of the challenge is building something from 20 plus years of history, but also trying to look a little bit into the future and think about how do we again connect kind of more broadly with Chicago and create something that is timeless. And we've got a number of designers working on the project. One in particular, Matt Wolf, who has a really impressive career of Crest development in this country. He's got Midwest ties. He spent a chunk of his childhood in Minneapolis, but also his family's from Chicago. He uses that word a lot. Is trying to create something that's timeless. And we've heard that in our roundtables too. Is folks want something that is unique to Chicago, but ultimately is timeless. So it's trying to find the right space within sort of that mosaic of problems to be solved, if you will, that really makes this project both challenging but a lot of fun.
Right. Now, Kyle, I know you guys are being inclusive, and that's the main idea, to make the fans and people participate on this. But at the end of the day, someone has to, take the decision. I don't think you're gonna vote for that. So who's taking the final decision?
Yeah, it's a great question. We've sort of said from the very outset that we don't view this going to a place where we're putting anything up to a vote. And I think one of the criticisms that we have heard, though I don't know that it's fully fair, is that it starts to feel like it's designed by committee, which is generally not a good approach for design. I would say it's more sort of input and background by committee, and that
Right.
ultimately we're trying to create a little space for the designers to create and to do what they do really well, right? And we've assembled a team of really talented designers, both specific to sort of soccer, crest, and identity, but also just general brand identity connected to Chicago. A firm named Studio Lab is also on the project. They're based here in Chicago. And so we've got a nice combination of people that ultimately are the professionals. I'm not a graphic designer. You certainly don't want me being the one dictating it. I think we'll try to find the right way to garner feedback on some of the final options. That's one of the things we're looking at right now. But ultimately, our owner Joe Mansueto will have a significant voice in whether it's the right crest. The league plays a role in as they look at kind of the entirety of the league and where identities are. They play a role in providing some amount of feedback. But I'm hopeful that we can get to a place where we can share some of the work and at least get some kind of directional feedback from fans. So it's not, we almost don't want a curtain raising moment where it's like, here it is, aha, right? As we sort of want to gradually get to a result together. This whole project has been an exploration. I don't quite know what that looks like yet, but we're hoping to kind of figure that out together as we go forward in the coming weeks and months.
And then having in mind the constraints of production and everything that has to be done with Adidas for next season, would you say that probably at some point during the summer the final decision has to be taken around summer?
I think that's right, John. We're working really closely with Adidas and the league. We think that it will be probably a mid-year deadline for the final crest so that they can start production.
Right.
Adidas have been just incredible partners. They're bending over backwards to probably shorten timelines that are difficult to shorten as you think about overseas production, and in order to make sure we have a crest on the kit for next year. We don't know exactly what that deadline is yet, but I do anticipate it'll be sometime kind of mid-year. And look, we have to figure out, is it something that we sort of fully reveal in the middle of a season when the team's wearing a badge that represents the club for now, versus waiting till postseason? That's something we haven't decided yet, but I think to your point, we expect we'll need to have it done before the season is over.
So it may be the case that it goes to production without being revealed.
Yeah, and I think that's the question, John, that keeps me up at night at the moment, right? Which is I don't think we want to get to a place where no one has seen it and we've got a bunch of stuff produced and we've put a ton of hours in production into a product that no one has yet seen, or a crest that no one has yet seen. So we haven't solved that one just yet, but I think, again, even if it's not sharing the final mark, I think we'll end up in a place where we want to share some of the concepts, some of the graphic sort of elements in advance of sending the final crest off. Once you hit send on that crest and send it to Adidas and the other vendors who create product, it's kind of too late. And frankly, that's why, with the current crest, you kind of have to wait a year or even longer to redo the crest. And it's worth mentioning that the league has been really good partners on this too, because typically you're not allowed to do rebrands, twice as quickly as we have. So they've been very helpful in understanding of needing to respond to our fans and their feedback, and have allowed us to undertake this process.
Right. Two quick ones before I let you go, and thanks again for your time.
Of course.
Did players chime in on this? They voiced their ideas or something?
Yeah, the players, I would say prior to this project, the players have been careful. I think they've been sort of good stewards of the club. They hadn't rendered any judgment on the Fire Crown badge previously. They haven't been in market. We will certainly offer them the opportunity to participate. We've had a few alumni, former players who've voiced their opinion. A former Fire homegrown player is on our Chicago Advisory Council, who's been really helpful to the project. So we want to hear from every voice. And our point has been, if you want to lend your voice, we want to hear it. If you want to write something to us, we've committed to reading every single word. So certainly players and coaches and others will be a part of that.
Right. How the pandemic affected the process? Did it change something in terms of timetable?
Well, Yeah, that we've been doing these roundtables and they're all over Zoom, and almost in every one we say, man, we wish we could be sitting around a table with Post-it notes and a pizza and a beer in our hand having this conversation versus over Zoom. It's made certain things more challenging, but I don't think it's we've adjusted to that reality at this point, right? We've all been essentially working from home for a year, so when you're conceiving, as we were conceiving of this entire project, it was all with the backdrop of we knew we were going to have to do it kind of in a pandemic world. So it's funny, we haven't thought about it much. It's just, as you think about what could have been and how maybe you could activate in the communities, in the neighborhoods on a match day, that just won't probably, unfortunately, be unable to be a part of this project this time around.
The MLS Cup is going to get to Chicago Fire back
Cup
again before the batch, or the batch is going to be before the MLS Cup?
Well, listen, I mean, I think we all will take an MLS Cup this calendar year in the current badge if that's an option. We're really excited about the team. I think our sporting side, led by George Heitz, Rafa Wicki, and Sebastian Pelzer, have done a great job putting a fun, exciting roster together. So we're all eager to get back on the field. I know we got pushed back a couple more weeks to the middle of April, but we're all really excited to actually get some soccer being played again.
Right. All right, Kyle, thanks again. And
John, thank you.
Hopefully the process finished with something that most of the people will love and keep connecting with Chicago Fire.
I appreciate it, John. Thanks for your interest and thanks for your time.
All right, thank you.